You are listening to the SDSU podcast presented by the East Village Times with your hosts Andre Hagberdian and Paul Garrison. Welcome, listeners, back to another episode of the SDSU podcast. I'm your host, Andre Hagberdian. We'll be joined shortly by my co-host, Paul Garrison. This is episode 140. A little preview of the football team as we head into the first game of the season on Saturday night. Paul and I did a live season preview show Tuesday night, which was episode 139, which went into details of all three phases. And we had done articles on all three phases separately. Paul had done the offense and the special teams, and I had done defense based on our interviews with Coach Mike Schmidt for offense, Zac Barton for special teams, Coach Eric Schmidt for defense. In this episode, we're going to play you the audio interviews with Coach Mike Schmidt and Coach Barton. Unfortunately, I had some audio difficulties when I recorded the conversation with Coach Eric Schmidt. Although I provided my quotes in the article from Coach Schmidt, the audio is a little bit not probably ready to or good to release, so we're gonna have to scrap the audio, at least whatever we have of that. So this episode, you're gonna get to hear from Coach Mike Schmidt and Coach Zac Barton. And then Paul and I will be back at the end just to recap kind of our conversations. But I think you guys will enjoy these. It'll give you a better sense as we head into the season. So let's get to the interview with Coach Mike Schmidt first, and then followed by Coach Barton, and then we'll finish it out.
So, they said that Coach Lewis talked about that the first goal was to name a starter in spring, then ASAP after fall. As the competition continues to play out, is there a possibility of playing multiple QBs for the first game?
Yeah, I think Coach Lewis and Coach Johnson will be the best resource, for that answer. I think they're with those guys every day, all day. They have a good feel for that room. I know one thing up front and all that. I think everybody trusts that the decision that we end up making is going to be for the best, for the good of the team, and we're going to keep trying to give those guys opportunity to develop and see who separates from the competition. Just like that room, up front, we're trying to do the same thing in a couple positions, and there's a couple of price drops from yesterday, and we got to continue to put our head down and keep working and making everything a heck of a lot more consistent, probably at all positions.
Absolutely. And, for the running back position, Marquez Cooper, he got a couple of carries there at the beginning. But he showed that he can make people miss. What have you seen from him in practice and what he can bring to the mix? Yeah,
he's been a great addition to the program. He reminds me of some of those guys we used to have around here that could make those explosive runs. When you could get them free to that third level player, it was going to be a tough fit for that safety dropping down in the clouds, and he's made a. And he's been in a couple live situations, and each and every one of them, man, not only has he made guys miss, but he's been real competitive. He brings a little spirit to the offense that was much needed.
And, given the youth at QB that you mentioned, the development that's going on there, is it more imperative that the running back shine in 2024?
Yeah, I think that always takes a little pressure off that position, and the better you stay on schedule, the easier third down is going to be, where the quarterback can be at the focal point of those critical situations, and we can take the load off his shoulders as long as we don't shoot ourselves in the foot, and get ourselves behind the chains. We have too many pre-snap penalties and even post-snap penalties that can be eliminated that kind of stalled some drives out that we need to get corrected here in a hurry to give those quarterbacks ample opportunities on third downs to keep those drives alive.
Jordan Napier is this guy just kind of jumps out at you physically, especially, coming from the slot. How has he progressed?
Man, he's really jumped on the scene. He's obviously got more opportunity with couple guys being down and all that. And I think he's a great learning example for other guys in similar opportunities where he's kind of got his chance. And I really feel like he's been committed to it, and he's really making a difference. And you can see the steady improvement he's made through camp. And the thing that jumps out at me, being a front guy and all that, is, man, when he touches the ball, he makes something happen with it. And that's one heck of a trait to have, being a skilled player. You know, it's not an easy takedown. You know, he got great contact balance, and he's always pushing the ball north after catch, which is a great job. You know, just by him and his development and maturity, it's been big for our offense.
And you mentioned the health of the wide receiver group. You know, as you guys are only 3 weeks from the first game, you know, is that becoming more of a concern, or are there just kind of precautionary kind of minor things?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's all timelines for the guys. Certain guys got different experience levels, so you're a little more lenient and making sure their health is the number one concern when they've been in this offense, and they've shown to master the offense. So, you know, some of it's precautionary that, you know, we got a plan to get them back, and they're going to be great additions when we do get them back.
You know, and given all that they do in the run game, is blocking more important for tight ends than maybe the receiving in this offense, or, you know, is being a pass catcher kind of preeminent?
Yeah, I think there's going to be more opportunities for a tight end to be in a blocking scenario just by the style in which we play. But, I mean, if there's one fundamental that Coach Lewis is going to preach, and it might be the number one fundamental of offensive football, which is blocking, everybody is going to be required to do it. We're going to be trained to do it, and we're going to do it with the proper fundamentals.
And a guy like Mikey Harrison, you know, who plays that position, I mean, he doesn't have the weight that you would typically see from that, but he still gets the job done. I mean, how does he do that?
Competitive. He's really smart. He knows his strengths. I think he eliminates any of his size limitations with the way he plays to his strengths and finds windows, and he's got great courage across the middle, which always helps inside receiver.
And, you know, you mentioned that everybody needs to block. Does having like special teams and everybody participating in that at the beginning of practice, do you think that helps with some of those fundamentals and some of the defense on it?
Yeah, that's a great deal we do at the beginning of practice, because there's a point where everybody's going to have to block. I think what those drills do is if those drills turn you into a complete football player. And I think it's great that they go around, rotate, they do different things, and they're forced to do everything. And your wide receivers are forced to tackle and all that. That's really just 101 football training, body position and on contact, kind of the courage part of it too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So those drills help a whole football team, not only on special teams, but they got great carryover into what you're doing offensively and defensively.
You know, Coach, how would you evaluate the depth of the O-line? It seemed like at FanFest, you know, it seemed like there was a little bit of a drop-off between the first and second team, which isn't uncommon. But how have you developed that depth, and how do you feel like that's going for your group?
Yeah, it's a constant battle, kind of the same thing the receivers going for, making sure we get those guys to the gate, you know, and making sure we're not overworking the guys that were coming off injuries from last year. So it's a constant maneuver there, but at the same time, making sure they got 5 guys out there, it's a cohesive unit. We have rotated so much the first 2 weeks or so. I think guys are getting used to playing next to all different guys, you know, but you'd like to kind of narrow that down here, down the stretch, so we can start playing next to the same guy and really feeling how his skill set, you know. But health is going to be the number one priority of our players, and we're going to make sure they're healthy, you know, going into week 1, and so we can go out there and let it rip a little bit.
Nate Williams is a guy who, you know, at least in the parts that I've been able to see, has kind of been right tackle from day one. He's never left. I mean, what have you seen from a steady veteran?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got so much experience under him. You know, my challenge to him was he's got 1 semester left. You know, I had about, 10 months. It's going to be about 10 months total in his whole development cycle, you know, and I just wanted to, you know, you're not going to change much about how his body's developed and all that late in his career, but you can change. And I want to make sure that the film he puts out there this year, you can see an improvement from where it was a year ago, right? Like I want to have that impact on him where you can see a guy late in his career still make those those jumps in his play. And that's what I kind of challenged him. I think the best way that we can do it, our best approach, hasn't been as much fundamentally and technique wise, because he came in with so many reps under his belt. That stuff's not the problem. But just the way in which he plays the game, I think there's more than the reps that he can do to create a little bit more. There's stuff we can work on contact and protection, so we can stop rushers' feet a little bit better. So we're continuing to work on that stuff. But really just trying to take his game, from one level to the next is what I would like to see here when it comes, to getting through the season.
Joe Bullhorn is a guy who was first on the depth chart without, seemingly taking a rep in practice. I mean, what did he do during summer workouts that elevated him so high in the coaching staff lives?
Yeah, I think that was an educated guess off kind of everything. Everybody was new. Us as coaches were new. He had the misfortune of not being with us in the spring. But like kind of just past performance and the way he picked it up in the summer really impressed us, and that's the great thing about this is like we feel like we got two left tackles over there, and we might have to maneuver some stuff around. And Christian Jones, if you watched closely last night, he was in there at guard. You had Joe and Christian in there, and that's that's the force out there. And Christian probably has his best day I've ever seen him have yesterday. So that there are bright spots out there. We got to continue to build the consistency up, right? But like both those guys are going to have a huge impact regardless where they are labeled on the depth chart and at any position. You can move lateral on that thing too, not just vertically.
And then you mentioned Christian Jones. I mean, on one of the plays that he was at left guard, that was the big 40-yard run that they went. I mean, from being able to see that much success for him, I mean, what does that do for, the growth and the things that you've been trying to instill in him?
Yeah, man, I think that's what makes our job so unique, right? Like you put in so much work to get him over a hump, and really what you're trying to do is you're trying to get a guy who's been playing one way, right? You're trying to get him to do it another way. And all he's got to do is feel it himself. And you got to somehow find a way for him to get over the hump, do it right, and then that thing will start becoming habit. And he went out there and played the best football I've seen from him. I expect him to continue because all that does now, you go out there, you put a good product out there, it just builds confidence in the player, and it's a lot easier to repeat. And you've never done it, it's hard to repeat, right? And I'm hoping this thing kind of skyrockets his development. And, we've only been together for whatever it's been now, five months or so. And if we're at where we're at, I think there's still a lot of room to grow with his frame and his athletic ability.
A couple more questions, Coach. You guys have had, I don't know if you've had a full debrief on the Fan Fest, but I mean, are there any just like general takeaways that you saw from that event or the staff saw?
Yeah, I think we talked about it in offense. I mean, obviously we got to eliminate the negative plays. I think the gap, we got a gap right now. We got some real explosive plays, which is a great thing because that means we have explosive players to go create those plays, right? That means we're timing up in the relationship between the running back and the offensive line to create explosives. So there are some bright spots, right? But the gap between the bright spots and the low spots are really big. Like we had an alignment issue up front that took away that a long pass there with the first rep of the two group, so like plays like that are just, they eliminate momentum and those gaps between the good and the bad is so big right now. We got to bring that up a little bit, starting from the bottom and moving that thing back up top, we got to close that gap and continue to force the details of the game and that'll make it a heck of a lot more competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that pass there on that screen or whatever check down was one of the better ones of the night. It was a bummer it got to in the way. Final question, Coach. What does the offense need to do overall for it to be a successful year?
Yeah, I think we got to score more points than the opponent. I think it comes down to being that simple. I know it's coach speak, but I think that's the deal. I think we're going to fight. Obviously, year one. New scheme, all that. I think it's going to be a battle of consistency. Can we stay ahead of the chain? Is going to be a huge emphasis. We've already had third down discussions. as a group, trying to teach them the game and the importance of that. It really relies on first, second down. So can we eliminate the negative plays? Can we create enough explosives so you don't got to put a 15, 20 play drive together, right? Because I think a lot of times that's a little unrealistic. But we got to create explosives. We got to eliminate negatives. And we got to just make sure that ball is going north. Because if we can go north, get a couple first downs, force the tempo on the defense, I think we're a completely different unit. Sometimes, and I think you see that when we do go scrimmage, that tempo starts getting on the defense, and it makes it really hard for them to get into all their calls. It makes it really hard for them to disguise anything. They're trying to just get up, line up, and they're reacting instead of attacking. So I think that's going to be the critical thing, and that's going to be our edge. And we got to get consistent enough to get those couple first downs and use it to our advantage.
That's perfect. Mike, thanks for taking some time on a Sunday to talk. And best of luck with everything rest of camp.
No problem. Thank you, bro.
All right, brother.
Paul,
Coach, what's going on?
what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Thanks for taking some time. I know it's a crazy time of the year.
Well, we'll practice today. We've got a little bit more time today, so nice.
I appreciate it, man. Just jumping into it, as someone who's worked with Coach Lou the most, what has been your mindset with kind of setting an example for how he wants his assistants to coach?
I think he's pretty. I don't think he's. I think we just know each other. You know what I mean? I know things that irritate him, and I try to do the best I can to make sure that's not happening. You know what I mean? Because I obviously have no idea, but now in the era of NLI, with what he's doing off the field to raise as much money as he can for the program, you know what I mean? And then also calling the offense, it's a lot, you know what I mean? And then as involved as he is in special teams, he literally doesn't have a free minute. So anything I can do to help him just help things run smoother, because myself and Matty J, we're at an advantage because he's been with him for so long. We know how he likes it done. This is a new schedule for everybody else except us. You know what I mean? We kind of know what's coming, and it's our job to try to get out in front of it as much as we can. Ease the burden in any way that we can to help him. So he's just not. He can, when he's out on the field, especially specifically when he's out on the field, we can let him concentrate on just being there and doing that.
As you've gone through this now, through most of fall camp, 2 scrimmages, what have you seen as your takeaways from the scrimmages and just special teams in general?
Special teams in general, I think that we have the level of consistency with it being a new scheme. You know what I mean? Those guys truly understanding why we're doing what we're doing. You know what I mean? And just not doing it because it's a line on a board or what was presented to him in a meeting. You know what I mean? I really want him to understand why we have this leverage on this third play. You know what I mean? Why we're calling this protection. You know what I mean? And we're getting there, and it's been a little like riding a roller coaster. You know what I mean? Some days it's been really, really good, and other days, man, that drop has kind of come out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So just right now, it hadn't been an effort issue at all. We just got to we got to make sure that the understanding of why we're doing things is at an elite level by next Saturday at 5:01 or 5:02 when we kick this thing off. We've got to be on the same page in everything that we do. And I told those guys in the meeting the other day, I was like, hey, man, there's going to be some times where I bail you out with what we're doing scheme-wise, but there's going to be a lot of times where you guys just bail me out, which is pure effort and getting things done. You know what I mean? It works both ways. So we haven't gotten there yet, but we had a really, really clean last couple of practices from where they were at from the first scrimmage. The second scrimmage was drastically better, and then when we finished up with what we did situationally, special teams wise, before we gave them this break today was better. So we just have to keep that momentum. We got to keep getting better. We got to keep, working at it, understanding it, and going the extra mile with it. You know what I mean? Because now that we're cut back, now that we're out of camp, you know what I mean? A 20-minute meeting on 8 minutes on the field ain't going to get it done. You know what I mean? It's going to have to be guys coming in extra one-on-one. It's going to have to be a lot of their own film study on stuff. You know what I mean? Like, we're happy to take this into an extra gear to keep this thing at where it's been in the past year.
And could you talk to me through, how you guys start every practice with special teams? How did that develop? And what are all the things that you're trying to accomplish? Because, Mike Schmidt, he said that it creates football players because everybody's kind of moving through all the different drills. But I mean, what do you see it from your perspective?
I don't know who I stole it from. Unfortunately, I'm getting really old. I think it was the University of St. Thomas up in Minnesota. Where I started at in Winona, we've had a bunch of crossover between those two staffs. And I think it's the most important thing that we do because it trains the whole roster. And then once you get into the season, it gets so scheme related, you're really not working on technique anymore. You're not working on blocking, tackling, inside hands, leverage, all that stuff you get away from because you get to the scheme stuff. And for us to have that 10 minutes of special teams Indy to start every day, that lets us work through that stuff all year long. Like we did, it's the same format in the spring, right? Like we're starting every practice, the special teams Indy, like true individual, you know what I mean? And you see us, like everybody's doing something. Like we got returners going, we got gunners going, like we break everything into pods. So everybody's working. So you're also training. Now with the 4-game rule, you're training everybody. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's been huge for us to just work on the basics all the time of, hey man, I'm working zone footwork all year long. I'm just not doing it the first couple times in camp and then work right into 11 on 11. Like this allows us to work that technique all year long. And I think as longer I've been doing this, the more I see it, like guys are getting better technique wise as the year goes on. You know what I'm saying? And then when we get into the battle and you get into the part 4 where you need it, you've done that technique 1,000 times, you know what I mean, compared to the guy that's lined up across from you. And I think our guys have done a really good job of making it, okay, not only are we working zone footwork during the drill, but okay, like, where's his line? Why are you using zone footwork right now? You know what I mean? Like, why do you have this split? Hey, when we're blocking, it's always like, defender, you block point. You know what I mean? Like, they got to understand that. And what type of footwork they're going to use is based off of that. And we just work that all year long. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, I think that's been a huge advantage. And the guy that I worked for at Winona bought into it at Winona State. And then when I got with Lou, I brought it up. He was on board to see him. He's posting something out there every time we do that. You know what I mean? And we just adopted it. And then last year at Kansas, we ended up doing the same thing. He ended up allowing us to do that as well. And I think that had a huge impact on just the culture. It shows the kids it's really important and it gives them a chance to get better at what we're asking them to do. You know what I mean? And I think it develops, especially with the 4-game rule with young pups, and it lets you get those guys ready to play. You know what I mean? Which is really, really good. Like, I don't see a downside. I tell the guys all the time, like, the most important thing we do is just 10 minutes Indy. You know what I mean? Like, everything that we embody is in that 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, valuing the ball. I mean, we chart everything. Every ball that's on the ground, we know it. You know what I mean? Like, how they recover the ball during that period if they fumble it. You know what I mean? Like, it allows us to continue to get better throughout the year, which is a big deal, obviously.
That's great. I think the last time we talked, Gabriel Placentia had gotten the scholarship, but you weren't exactly seeing the consistency that you wanted. Where has that competition gone? And is there any surprises maybe Nick Lopez being able to take that job?
I think Nick Lopez is going to play this year. He has, unfortunately, got banged up. Hasn't been playing a whole lot. So he hasn't been able to show what he can really do. So going into game 1, Gabe is the guy, and we're still having some consistency issues. The last time that we spoke, unfortunately, I feel exactly the same as I did first time we spoke about it. It's not like the punting job where somebody's coming and just taking that thing and like, hey man, like the guy, like Pat is the guy. You know what I mean? Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. He goes out there and shows every day that he's the guy. You know what I mean? To the team, to the coaching staff, if you go out there, you watch that kid work, you watch what he does, and you put him in game situations, he's got a chance to live up to the standards that have been set here before. You know what I mean? With the NFL punters that have come through here in the past. You know what I mean? Kicking wise, we'll have great days where we go 100% and he's killing it, and the next day we're not where we need to be. You know what I mean? So from a day-to-day standpoint, and he knows that. I'm brutally honest with those guys. Gabe is probably his toughest critic. We need to get this bottom line, like no sugarcoating it. We need to be more consistent. You know what I mean? Like, we need to be more consistent. We're not going to put you in a situation where you got to make a 55-yarder. You know what I mean? We need you to make the kicks that you're supposed to make, and that's it. You know what I mean? We'll figure out a way to get it protected, and you got to put between the pipes, and we got to do that. We got to do that at a higher level right now.
And you mentioned Tyler. I mean, is being able to match the NFL guys? I mean, is that have you been able to like trim time off of how quickly he's able to punt the ball? As being able to punt it, I think when I talked to him, he said that he enjoyed the weather and being able to kick all year. I mean, is it more hang time? Is it what is it to take that next step?
He's a bit of an anomaly. You watch him kick, his leg swing breaks, and his head comes up right away, and that's against all, like, as a punter, those are the two huge no-nos. You know what I mean? Like, you're not supposed to do any of that stuff. And I don't remember if I told you this before, but he's a Pennsylvania guy. You know what I mean? So he grew up where I went to college, and it's terrible weather. You know what I mean? It's windy, it's cold. About halfway through the season, you're kicking a brick. You know what I mean? But he was in upstate New York kicking it all day. You know what I mean? That's just not great conditions to kick a football. And he played against Coach Ulrich in the semifinal game. Albany went up there and played Idaho. And he went to the portal, and Rob, who came in my office, was like, you got to look at this kid. This kid killed us in the playoff game. So we got him here, and the first 6 practices, spring ball, I'm trying to change him. I'm trying to get him to fit what I think a punter should be. You know what I mean? And he's not punting very well at all. And then I finally said, like, hey, man, like, when he would, in my mind, wouldn't kick you, like, you would be a bit hit, like instant. Like, he's supposed to hit you in the face, leg's supposed to be locked out, all this stuff that, is traditional. And you watch Tyler kick, and the leg's breaking, and, like, he can't get his head up fast enough. And I finally said, well, hey, like, this kid's a 5th-year senior. Like, let's just let him do what he does. And ever since then, man, he's been himself. You know what I mean? I stopped recruiting him up, and that's the way he kicks the ball, and he does it very, very well. Now, what I've been amazed at for him is he lets me do all this, because I'm used to having an Aussie kid. And most American kids do not like all that. They don't like rolling out. They don't like changing the block point. They don't like kicking the ball across the field. You know what I mean? They're all taught, like, get up there, hang time for forever. You know what I mean? True NFL style punt. And he's thrown ideas at me. I'm like, you're willing to try to do that? Like, sure, why not? And then he goes out and does it, and he's flipping the field with it. You know what I mean? Like, he's hitting some bombs, man. Like, I'm just, and every day, like, I'm usually more worried about protection than I come in and watch practice. And I watch him, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, and he's dropping the nose down and stuff. I think I'm making him go faster than he's ever had to go before. Some of the things we're asking him to do. You know what I mean? And he's been all about it. You know what I mean? Great attitude. He's up for trying to do stuff. You know what I mean? Throwing stuff at me, like, hey, protection wise, what if we did this? What if we did that? You know what I mean? Like, it's been awesome to work with him. You know what I mean? Because he's older. You know what I mean? Like, this is his 3rd school. So it's been a real joint effort. It's been something that I've really enjoyed with him, is his ability to not only handle the traditional side of things, but the other things I've been asking him to do that are different that he's never ever done before. How he's handled that, and how he's been able to maintain his distance and his height and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, he had about 3 days ago, he had a really bad day, which was the only bad day at camp. And we're in the meetings, and he's a pretty outgoing kid. He's really quiet. You know what I mean? and we get done, and he like literally worked himself into a frenzy. He's so upset that he kicked bad, right? And I'm like, hey man, you gotta relax. You gotta relax. It's a bad day. Like, mush it, move on. And I'm in my office, 10:30 at night. I get a text from him. Hey, I'm still watching film, and that will never happen again. I'm like, man, go to bed. Like, brother, like, we got an early day tomorrow. I need you to go to bed. You know what I mean? And he comes up the next day and just kills it. Turns looking and said, told you. Well, why are you mad at me? Like, you don't get mad at me. So he's been phenomenal. And then the two guys behind him are I mean, Zach's done it, has dramatically improved. And then the transfer from NIU is a huge like dude. You know what I mean? He got here at the start of camp, so he's a little bit behind with what we're doing schematically. You know what I mean? But his first day was literally the first day we showed up for camp, for getting him in school. So I've never been a place that has three guys comfortable putting in a game.
Wow.
And I would have no issues putting Zach in a game. Something happens, Tyler, and I have no issues putting Ian in a game. Something happens. You know what I mean? Like, that side of things, punt wise, man, we're in a really, really good spot.
Good to hear. I think the dream for everybody with kickoff returns was Deshaun Polk and Keenan Christian being the guys back there. Yeah, but I don't know if health's going to allow it. I mean, who's kind of waiting in the wings to be able to pick up that slack?
Jordan Napier was a guy that we had in the box, and then with all the injuries, he's come miles receiving core wise. He's dynamic. He runs with it. When he runs with the ball in his hands, he's physical. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He does no wasted movement. He gets north and south. So he's been a guy that has moved back into that role, and I'm super excited about. We got to figure out a way to get the ball on the return game. You know what I mean? Like, Kingo now it's a bad deal. You know what I mean? The guy back there with that type of speed is what you want. You know what I mean? You got to adjust. And Jordan he's taken some of the other responsibilities off of Jordan, protection wise and blocking wise in the special team to be more of a returner. So he's the next guy up, and I'm really, really excited to see what he could do with the ball in his hands. Because that kind of happened. We kind of started thinking about that at the end of the summer. You know what I mean? And then with Keenan going down, he's kind of slid into that spot, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
And then is that just so I know how you guys run? I mean, so that's the primary spot, and then the other guy that's back there with them,
To with what we do, they're interchangeable.
Got it.
So back there with Keenan, like it would have been Keenan and Polk. One of them would have been off returner. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The way they kick the ball. So that to me, that spot, if you could have two guys that are dynamic returners, it really puts you in a bad spot. Now, you also have to have some courage to be the off returner guy. You know what I mean? Because you're still running head first into the fire there. And I think both those guys could do that. Jay Sean started as off returner with us at Kent and then moved to the primary role. And did a great job as the off returner. You know what I mean? And Jordan is that way too. Like Jordan's a big, physical, not scared kid. You know what I mean? So now you're back there, who do you kick the ball to? You know what I'm saying? Like, that puts us in a good spot. And then Lucky Sutton has been working as our other off returner. And he's done a really, really good job of just a natural feel of spacing between him and the primary. Now he's less of a primary return guy than he is an off return guy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But he's done a really, really good job there as well. And then Jalen Armstead as well would be another guy that would be in the mix back there.
Great. And then, punt return, with Mackay, going down, for whatever period that's going to be for him. Marcus Cooper was taking kicks at least at the thing. I mean, is there any chance that he could be there? Because just thinking about his NFL chances, the more he can do.
He would be another kickoff return guy, and I love Coop. But some guys would have to go down before he go back there as a punt return.
Okay.
It's very hard to come miles, but he's not going to be. I know he doesn't lack for confidence, but right now our guy is Nape's back there, and Mike well, just look for punt return. You know what I mean? Like, there's just something about Mikey, man. Like, that little son of a bitch makes plays now. Like, he's got a feel for it. He ain't scared. He gets what we're doing. He's coming in and watches it. He tracks it very well. You know what I mean? He has an idea where the ball's going. So Coop is going to be a player for sure. And when Deshaun went down last year at Kent, Coop moved into the primary return role on KOR. Punt-wise, it's going to be Nate and Mikey are going to carry the load until Mackay is ready to roll.
And is that Nate Bennett?
Oh, no. So Jordan Napier.
Oh, okay. Got it. Oh, so he do both of them. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And then, let's see. Okay. So then, Ryan Wintermeyer, fans don't like to hear me say this, but I think that if there's a guy who's closest to playing at a professional level on the Aztecs, and I said last year, it's Ryan Wintermeyer. What does he need to do in his final year of auditioning in college to be able to kind of really, show himself potentially for that next level, and try to reach those goals?
Well, I've never blocked. I had a guy block in my scheme, and he's been wearing me out. I can block. And I was resistant to it. And then the last week or so, during camp, we threw it in there, and he is more than capable of still throwing strikes and blocking, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
So I just flat lucked out at that spot. I think I agree with everything that you said. This has probably been the only time in my career that we had a kid named Joey Palumbo at Kent who ended up being team captain for us as a long snapper. But with Joey had could never make through season healthy. You know what I mean? Like major injuries. So he always had that concern. Well, with Ryan, his durability and how good he is, you know what I mean? You forget you're just flat out lucky. You know what I mean? To have that level of guy when you're coming into a program to start things, to have that guy there's your foundation is unbelievable. You know what I mean? And the way that kid works is second to none. You know what I mean? Like you literally got to tell him to stop. But you have to stop snapping, right? So I mean, he puts us at another level. That's the last thing I'm thinking about when we go on the field is where's the snap going to be, and then his ability to protect, and then he can get down there. He's going to be an asset. He's going to force some fair catches too. You know what I mean? Like he's going to run down there and he's going to take a fair catch and go do his job. And to have that level of kid here is huge for us. You know what I mean? Like you can't be. I know people don't value it, but I'm understating it, his importance right now to what we're going to be. You know what I mean? Like I don't have the vocabulary to be able to describe how much he means to us here on special teams. Like I don't, because if you take him out, I think our backup is really, really good, but he ain't Ryan.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we had a breakdown issue happen yesterday. Like it doesn't have, you don't even think about it. You know what I mean? Like, he's putting it exactly. I think that's why Tyler is going to take the next step because Tyler's the same way. Tyler just tells him where he wants it, man, and he puts it there. And watching those two guys work together, like, hey, in this section, I want you to put it here. When we're doing this, I want you to leave me here. You know what I mean? Like they're that deep in the weeds with it. You know what I mean? Hey, we make a set here. We got to go fast. You put this thing here so I can roll into it. My jab step, my kid's off. And you watch the film, and we're getting things off this 175. So I'm like, hey guys, like it's gonna make up for a lot of it. Unless we cut somebody loose right down the pipe, we're getting this thing off. You know what I mean? So those two guys working together has been fun to watch, and I agree with you. And I'm glad somebody else appreciates it. You know what I mean? Because most of the time, I start nerding out on that stuff, and everybody rolls their eyes.
And then the last area is the coverage units. Is there anybody who's standing up? The guy that I kind of wanted to ask about was Arnold Escanio. But I don't know if there's somebody else who would make more sense to be able to talk about as far as just, kind of being that special team, tasker kind of guy who, is just really valuable to you guys with all of the coverages.
I mean, there's Davis McGee is going to be a guy for us on team, starting on all four. Arnold's definitely starting on, I think, 2 right now. And just gives max effort, you know what I mean? Brady Anderson starting on all four. A guy that cares and is all in on it. Like you got, I'm leaving out DJ Herman. You know what I mean? Has been fantastic. I'm leaving guys out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Xavier, the safety is a guy we can be a difference maker. And the great thing about this is these guys are you're not prodding them to go. You know what I mean? Like they're ready to roll. You know what I mean? And then obviously we're trying to limit the guys that are going to be playing every snap on offense and defense to just one or two. You know what I mean? But like Chris Johnson is a guy that makes us different when he's out there. You know what I'm saying? Like keep going on it and figure out ways to use him and not wear him out. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's going to do exactly what you ask him to do as hard as he can. You know what I mean? You can't have him out there for every rep. You know what I'm saying? Max Garrison. I mean, literally a guy that's. If you told Max, hey, on this kickoff, I want you to, like the old days with the wedge. You know what I mean? Max would have been one of the wedge busters. You know what I'm saying? A guy that's going to just throw his body in there recklessly for the good of the team. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we've had more guys here like that than I've ever had before. You know what I mean? Like I could just keep going on and on about the guys on the roster like that. You know, we usually have one or two guys that are like that. We had Kid Kent and John Henry. We had one guy like that here. I feel like here I could name 5 or 6. You know what I'm saying? And there's more guys. You know what I mean? We got some freshman puppies that are chomping at the bit to go. You know what I mean? And it's gonna be cool to figure out a way to use those guys before games. You know what I mean? Like going into the minor leagues and grabbing a guy that's ready to go. Tay Byer came up who early enrolled.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He had a rep on our front line stuff. Literally, a guy went down. I think something like Max got dinged or something like that, right? And I grabbed Tate off the boundary, who'd been here all spring, and said, "Hey man, you're going to do this technique on R3." You know what I mean? On kick return, and he goes in there and puts on a clinic. You know what I mean? It's just hadn't done it all camp. Grab him off the boundary, that you got that guy, here's the technique, use and go. And he, you know what I mean? It was literally the best rep we've had all fall camp. So like things like that hadn't been like that at other places. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm excited to see if we can put this thing together and collectively get, connect as units and start fast and hold through the entire season. Because certainly it's not, I was telling them the other day, it's not an effort issue. You know what I mean? Like, we got some guys like Arnold that are just going to leave it all out on the field, do whatever you ask them to do. So, extremely lucky that way. Hoping that on the coverage units that I tell the kickers they can be so good that nobody else matters.
Right.
And I would love that. You know what I mean? You know what's a really good kickoff unit is the guy that puts it at the top of the letters in the end zone. That's usually a pretty good kickoff unit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Punt wise, the snapper and the punter can be so good that nobody else matters. You know what I mean? Putting that thing on the tick marks or putting it up in the air for 5 seconds, you don't have to cover anything. So, you got some guys that can do it, but I think I tell the specialists, man, you guys can be so good that those other guys don't matter.
And then is Placencia? He's going to be the kickoff specialist.
Yes, he's going to be. Right now, he's plays the kickoff guy and the field goal guy.
All right, perfect, Coach. I appreciate your time, man. It's always great to talk to you.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Paul, those are interviews that we just listened to with Coach Zac Barton and Coach Mike Schmidt. We also interviewed Coach Eric Schmidt.
Yeah. What happened there, Andre?
Had some audio recording issues on the back end, and unfortunately that interview is not good to air. Not ready for prime time. But if anyone read my article, I did use the quotes in there from Coach Schmidt in there, and I tried to put in all the relevant information he provided as much as I could in an article anyway. But just going through the 3 phases and the 3 articles we put out. You did the offense and the special teams. Any main takeaways from your conversations with Coach Barton and Coach Schmidt, Mike Schmidt?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, a couple of things. First of all, that staff is busy. We requested these like I want to say it was at the beginning of July, and they worked hard to find a spot for us. And so so normally we do it over Zoom for anyone who wants to reveal the curtain, right? We do it over Zoom, and these had to be phone calls. And so like Mike Schmidt was on a random Sunday after the fan fest, and then you took Eric Schmidt on your lunch break. I took Zac Barton on my lunch break. And the phone call that I took and how I was picking up, I have maybe the squeakiest chair I have ever heard. There's a couple just like right at the very beginning, there's these like really loud. I'm like, oh man, which don't I think come across as much on Zoom. So all those technical difficulties in trying to do it. So I think most of all, I'm incredibly grateful as my initial thought to San Diego State, their media relations, Colin, thank you, Jamie, getting this set up, helping us to track them down. And these coaches have been working incredibly hard, and they literally will have like 15 minutes the entire day. And we appreciate the guys, coming and having those conversations with us.
Yeah, Coach Eric Schmidt as well. Definitely. What I took away from our conversation is that, he saw a lot of growth from the spring to the summer and the fall. And that makes sense because it's a new system, a lot of new players. I think some of the names he highlighted that he saw as people that had made huge jumps, Trey White and Tana Latuli. Not too long after our conversation and before this episode comes out, those two were named as captains. And Trey White was named as a special teams captain. Tana Latuli as a defense, but Trey White is obviously a big part of the defense as well. And I think that factored into a lot because he saw what the teammates saw in these guys bringing leadership as young guys, right? Trey White is a redshirt sophomore and Tana Latuli is a sophomore. So they have they played a total of 3 years of experience. And now going into their fourth and fifth year, they're captains. So I think how he spoke about them, how glowingly kind of came to fruition when they got named captains. Sean Lewis has said great things about those guys too. And so I think it was promising the way he was talking about the defense and what they're looking to do. The edges, obviously the defensive line is the biggest question mark because there's so many new faces there and the lack of production last year from the defensive line. And I think that's, getting pressure on the quarterback and stopping the run is going to be a big deal. And, I think it's the linebackers in the secondary, there's still a lot of new pieces, but I think they're a little bit more solidified than up front. And I'm just curious how the rotation is going to work out because I think they're going to play a lot of guys up front.
Yeah, I love it. Couple more things I think from mine. I am a little bit surprised that Mike Schmidt wasn't the first offensive line hire. And maybe they just didn't have the relationship. So Boyle was going to come over and that was just what's going to happen. But has there been anybody that you've seen that the San Diego community has rallied around more than Mike Schmidt since he's been hired?
Do you mean on this staff?
I mean, yeah, exactly. Like coaches and things like that.
No, I mean, he's the hometown guy who played here, and yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I was just so impressed with the conversation. So if it hasn't been predicted, I'll predict it right now. That dude's going to be a head coach one day. He carries a room. He carried the conversation really, really well. And so he sounded like the run game coordinator. You know what I mean? He sounded like somebody who had a full grasp of the entire team. And so I was really impressed there. And then the only comment I'd want to make about, because we had the articles, right, and they kind of stand on their own, is I think that, I had a couple of questions because I said that Zac Barton was not Doug Deacon, but for this team, he was better. And just to clarify, in case there was anything, I thought the article was pretty clear. As you know, from the years that we've done this, we're huge Doug Deacon fans, huge believers in what he did. But when everyone assumed that's the guy. That's the guy that you're retaining. Sumler, because he's been here for a long time, and you're retaining Doug Deacon, and everybody else is gonna, be looking for work from the former staff. And when that didn't happen, I think there was a lot of people going, "Oh man, that's a miss," right? Like he must not know the great work, because our special teams at San Diego State have been great. This is what fans are saying. And I think that I didn't fully understand at the time of his hire, for sure didn't at the time of his hire, like how much Barton means to Sean Lewis and how much he means to everything that he does. But watch them interact on the sidelines, watch how he talks to the team and things like that. And I think you can really see what that's about. And so it really has nothing to do with Doug Deacon or even Zac Barton and their skill as special teams coaches. It has to do with just the overall culture of the school. And, I don't even think that it's a prediction. I think it's already happened and it's done, that Zac Barton has had a bigger impact than Doug Deacon would have on the same staff, because of all of the things that he brings beyond just the special teams. And that was the point of that part.
Yeah, when I read that line that you put in there about Deacon and Barton, I knew you were going to get a lot of
Oh, you're my editor, bro.
I got what you were saying.
Okay, good. Okay.
But I mean, Doug Deacon is a well-respected and well-loved coach, and
Okay.
a lot of people felt the same way, that he was going to be kept and that he was one of the better special teams coaches in the country. And I knew you'd get a few people that would earmark that line, but I thought you handled it well. You explained yourself.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to when they break out some of the like rollout punts and all of those things in their repertoire. I have no idea how much, but he teased that idea and that possibility in that interview. So I thought that was new. Because again, I mean, as much as the systems for the offense and the defense are new, so is the special team. I mean, he said like they're learning a new system, and we still have to figure out how to make sure that they understand everything that we're doing, and they're not just because there's a line that's drawn on a chalkboard somewhere and they're just following it. So I think it's another really exciting part. Jordan Napier, Napier. I know we'll have time to talk about him throughout the season, but I mean, did that come out of nowhere?
I don't know if it came out of nowhere. I mean, I think
pre-spring game.
Pre-spring game, yeah. I mean, I think if Lewis Brown and Polk and some of the other guys aren't injured, for a little bit, then maybe he doesn't get that as much appearances. But yeah. I think the talent is there. And it probably was shown in practice anyway.
Sure.
Even when everybody was healthy. But yeah, he's explosive. And last year he came in as a safety. I think he got moved to wide receiver because Raphael Williams got ruled ineligible. There were some injuries. I forget the names, but there's somebody that was injured. Philippe Wesley was injured, banged up coming into the season. And so, yeah, it was almost like, oh, we got to move someone to wide receiver, and here it is. But then, I wondered if the staff would move him back to safety, especially since they brought in so many wide receivers. But there's a reason they kept him at wide receiver. It's because he can flash, and he's shown that. At least he showed it at Fan Fest. He's shown it at other stuff. So, yeah, he's making a case to be a big player this year.
I mean, and then to be the primary returner, one of the primary returners at both phases, I think it's going to be fun to watch him. A really good interviews, and I know that the timeliness of it. We did a lot of them quickly, and we wanted to make sure we got the articles out. So apologize for me asking Mike Schmidt. Could this QB competition go into the season? Because I had no idea at that point, and Danny O'Neill had just had a not so great Fan Fest, and so but yeah, I still think overall the information is really good, and I'm glad that we were able to get them out.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, we appreciate the likes, the shares, the follows, subscriptions to all your favorite platforms. Getting ready for the season on Saturday. Obviously, our coverage will continue. throughout the season, whether it's articles, recaps, podcasts, you name it. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys next time. You are listening to the SDSU podcast presented by the East Village Times with your hosts Andre Hagberdian and Paul Garrison.